Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, your soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now.
Imagine dropping a pebble into a still pond. The ripples move outward, touching every corner of the water. That's exactly what happens when we speak truth. It doesn't just affect the moment. It affects and has an impact, like waves, onto the lives of others, sometimes for generations to come. But here's the challenge. When we withhold truth or soften it into falsehood, we send ripples too. And those ripples can distort and wound. Hi, I'm back with another key in soul progress, which is focused on the ripple effect of truth-telling. This is part 2 of a 5-part series on truth. We're going to look at not just enabling truth, which we did in the past episode, but telling it clearly, courageously, and with purpose, because it allows your soul, the substance of your life, continue to grow and expand and master your life's adventures. Truth is never neutral. Silence shapes us. Lies shape us. But truth transforms us. And it ripples, lasts longer than we can imagine energetically. So what do I mean by truth-telling? Truth-telling is more than blurting out what you think. It's not about weaponizing honesty to cut someone down, nor is it about holding back out of fear. Real truth-telling is the practice of aligning your words with eternal principles. Aligning your words with the core essence of truth, which is centered on the rock of Christ. That you are always trying to polish up that diamond so that it sparkles with truth. It really does require using the spoken word with both courage and compassion. You always heard the saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. There's some truth to that. What we may have said was the letter of the law, but we weren't engaged in integrating the spirit of the law too, integrating that compassion, but also knowing that we're willing to be courageous. Think of it this way. Truth is like a scalpel in the hands of a skilled surgeon. Used rightly, it heals. Used wrongly, it harms. The choice is in the hand that holds it. When we tell truth in the right spirit, we become channels of enlightenment, freedom, compassion, and love. Not only for ourselves, but for others. As the Gospel of John says, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free," which we spoke on a little bit in the episode on enabling truth. And it comes back to this whole notion that when we are able to enable truth, by working on it and working and refining ourselves. Because I'm not going to say it's always going to be easy. It can feel a little bit uncomfortable stating the truth. When we say it, ask our higher self to say it through us, we learn, we're growing of how to honor truth. And I think it was Daniel in the Bible who stated that if you don't want to know, don't ask me. To the kings, if you don't want to know, don't ask me, because I am going to tell the truth. Because truth is a quality of Christ, of Jesus Christ. And the path of truth, these are sold to a greater measure of wisdom, which I'll talk about at another date. So let's talk about this rippling effect in your everyday life. Every time you tell the truth, even in small things, it ripples or set in motion. For example, a parent who admits to a child, I was wrong and I'm sorry, teaches humility and honesty that ripples through generations because we're role modeling for our children. Whether they are children of blood or children based upon our friendships that we have with others that have children. We're always role modeling, whether we're aware of it or not. As the old saying goes, there's always someone looking. We just want to be on that bedrock of speaking the truth. Another example is an employee who tells the boss, these numbers don't add up. And she's telling a boss who wants them to add up the way he or she wants them to add up. There may be a risk to her job, but they protect the integrity of the company. By her saying these numbers don't add up, we need to look deeper here, we need to do something else. She's not only protecting her integrity, but also she's protecting the integrity of the company to making sure they have accurate information. Even in the midst of her superior grumbling about the numbers. Another example is a teenager who refuses to join in gossip, maybe an outsider in the moment, but later others trust this person because they know this person won't betray their words, won't engage in gossip, will hold what they say in confidence. Each act of truth-telling strengthens character. Character builds the soul. And this is not necessarily overnight, but each time we engage in truth-telling, it becomes the rippling effect. Ripple by ripple by ripple, choice by choice by choice, that we build our strength and character because we're willing to tell the truth. But what happens when truth is withheld? The ripples move differently. For example, a doctor who avoids telling a patient the whole truth about a diagnosis may spare pain in the moment, but the silence robs the patient of the chance to prepare, to fight, to live fully, to do the things they need to do to prepare for the particular terminal illness they may have. Or the leader who dodges uncomfortable truths trains a culture of silence in their organization, where lies flourish and trust slips away and dies. Here's another one. A student who hides a failing grade doesn't just deceive their parents. They teach their own soul that avoidance is safer than honesty. They're teaching their soul information that is not on the bedrock of Christ, of truth. And the soul can get confused, just as the outer self, the ego persona, can get confused. In the process of being confused, it doesn't make great choices. It doesn't make the wise choices that allows that soul to walk a higher path. So when truth is withheld, the soul shrinks. It carries the burden of what could have been said, but wasn't. And over time, the weight presses down and the soul grows weary. And this kind of dense energy is as if we're having this 10-ton weight that is on it. And in that 10-ton weight, we don't have rippling, we have splashing. And that stone going to the bottom of that particular pond and just sitting there because of the density. We want ripples. We don't want these big splashes. Yes, the end result is rippling, but that's not the type of ripple you want to have for your soul. Let's anchor this with some truth doesn't go away because we avoid it. It waits, and eventually it surfaces. Truth does not waver. It is, and its impact ripples across the pond. It makes a spark. Subtly, rippling in a way is the frequencies of energy. And there can be frequencies of higher energies and frequencies of lower energies. And truth is always on the path of higher energy. Daniel Amen, who wrote the book Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, talks about how hiding truth creates mental stress that literally rewires the brain toward fear and avoidance. In other words, dishonesty is not just a moral issue, it's a neurological one. And what we are wiring at the time when we don't tell truth and we're fearful and we don't say anything, we don't realize it's laying tracks and moving us more and more, doing it again and again with not anchoring in truth, trying to skirt around truth, not say really what it is. We can always ask our inner self, our Christ self, how do I need to put this so the person can hear what I'm saying? Sometimes your inner voice may say, you need to be very direct, but this person's not going to hear it any other way. So if the kindness in your heart, but with the vocabulary that you're using, you're direct with the person, but it's not out of malice. It's being attuned to your inner self that you've learned to listen to about what you need to say, when you need to say it, and how you need to say it. And then the other one I was thinking about in terms of a quote was The Imitation of Christ by Kempis. And he said, do not be angry if others have a bad opinion of you. Be angry with yourself if you have not lived as you should and as one dedicated to God, to Christ, the I Am Presence, the higher self, whatever word you want to use. In other words, live truth, and the opinions will take care of themselves. Goes back to what I said in my previous episode. Embody truth. Enable truth. Let truth ripple. You're doing it from a point of being anchored in your soul, in your Christ self, in your heart, trying to do your best and live your best. So we just finished talking about people to be aware of when I'm talking about this rippling aspect of truth. Daniel Ottman and the Imitations of Christ. And what they are all saying in this truth-telling, that it may sting at first, but it builds strength, integrity, clarity, and soul freedom. That's what I want to underscore. When we can do that in real life and be intentional and conscious about it, we are truly walking our spiritual path because we're making an intentional action of making for sure we're honoring truth. Because it does impact others, not just ourselves. So think about this. A teacher once discovered that the curriculum she was given had factual errors. She was warned not to make waves, but she chose to correct it in her classroom. At first, she faced backlash, but later students thanked her for her integrity. The rippling of truth reaches far beyond that semester. And a teenager accidentally spread a rumor about a classmate, later realizing it was false. She could have stayed quiet, hoping it would die out. Instead, she admitted her mistake publicly and asked for forgiveness. The courage to correct herself didn't just heal the classmate. It set a tone in her school that honesty matters. We never know what the impact is going to be by us being willing to speak the truth and allow it to ripple out and help others, maybe in ways we can't see or will not know for years to come. Here's another thought. A small business owner discovered one of his employees was scamping from the till. They were taking money. And he had to really think about, what do I do here? And so he felt that instead of being quiet about his dismissing of them, he first told, because this was an employee in which many employees enjoyed and liked to be around, but the employee was embezzling money. So he could easily just, fire the person, let them go off, and that would be the end of it. But he didn't feel that was totally accurate to do. He didn't feel it was totally right thing to do. So what he did instead, and he told the employee that he was going to let the other members of his team be aware that he was being dismissed without getting into the details. So he addressed it openly with the whole team, setting a standard that dishonesty would not be tolerated. We don't have to say the person's story, but we can say that certain circumstances have come to light that this person has not been honest in their behavior and not in alignment with the code of our company. Therefore, I had to let the person go. By making the choice, it restored trust and strengthened loyalty among the members of that team in his organization. Each of these stories shows how a single moment of truth-telling sends waves far beyond the initial act. So we do it not because of the waves, we do it because it's the right thing to do. We do it because we're walking the path of Christhood. We want to be our best self that was emulated through Jesus, who told the truth. And we have great martyrs and saints who showed us that it's worth it. It's worth the honoring of our soul to be able to tell the truth and work on telling the truth. Because I realize it can be hard, as I said earlier, but it is essential. You think, why is it essential? For soul progress. Well, before I give you some practical steps, let's pause and go deeper on why truth-telling is so important for the soul. The soul was designed to vibrate in harmony with divine law and truth. And truth is the resonance that keeps that harmony alive. And we live in truth. Our soul is clear, radiant, and aligned. When we compromise truth, even in small ways, the soul's light becomes dim. As I said, here in the previous episodes, it becomes cloudy, weighted down. The old spiritual teaching described it in this way. Truth is like a flame. Each time you tell the truth, the flame grows brighter. Each time you bend or withhold it, a layer of soot forms over the flame. The flame is still there, but its light is dimmed. And over time, if too much soot gathers, the soul feels heavy, weary, and disconnected from its purpose. And this matters for the progress of your soul, because progress is always upward. I have never heard about downward progress. If you have heard about that, let me know. Just as progress is always upward, truth is a ladder. And every rung lifts us closer to the divine. But a rung weakened by dishonesty will not bear our weight. We slip, sometimes falling further than we realize, because without truth, discipline loses meaning. If you can't trust your own words, your commitments crumble. Without truth, love loses clarity. Love built on half-truths becomes fragile and uncertain. Without truth, wisdom loses power. Insight without integrity becomes manipulation, not guidance. The soul cannot ascend without truth. It becomes so vital, so essential. That's why I have this series that I'm doing on different dynamics, different aspects of truth, which comes keys to your soul progress. So as I said, the soul cannot ascend without truth. It may move, it may struggle forward, but it cannot rise higher until it is anchored in truth-telling. That's why every choice matters. Every small act of honesty strengthens the soul. Every falsehood weakens it. The stakes are not just about reputation, not just about relationships. They are about the eternal destiny of your soul itself. So how do we strengthen our own ability to tell the truth? First, start small. Tell the truth in everyday details. I was late because I overslept, not traffic was bad. Small truths trains the soul for larger ones. Number 2, pause before you speak. Ask, will this build or will it break? If it builds, it's truth, it's love. If it breaks unnecessarily, it's truth without wisdom. Will this build or will it break? We're building, always want to build the truth of wisdom, of love, of harmony, of peace within ourselves. So we be in listening grace to our higher self, who prompts us, who guides us into what we need to do. Number 3, practice correction. I know there are people that once they say something, they're not going to renege on it. They're not going to, I said it, I'm going to leave it alone. But that, if you're walking a spiritual path, is, as my father would say, a no-no. My father used to say that anything less than love is a no-no. So if you need to correct in love and in harmony and in peace, correct. If you realize you said something wrong or you've done something wrong, go back and correct it. The soul grows stronger every time it chooses correction over pride. Number 4, anchor in values. If truth-telling feels hard, ask yourself, what ripple do I want to leave behind? The answer usually gives courage in the moment. So these are 4 things that you can do to help foster aspects, the rippling positive aspects of truth-telling. Start small, pause before you speak, practice correction, anchor in values. The rippling of truth-telling moves farther than you think, moves quicker than you think, moves in unseen ways that you may not even be aware of. But we know this much, that truth-telling, it does shape our character, strengthen our soul, and impacts the lives of those who come after us and who are coming to us for guidance, for assistance, for service that we can give in some particular way. My question to you, what ripple of truth is waiting for you to release today? It may be small, it may be costly, but the soul that tells the truth grows lighter, stronger, and freer. Something to think about. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.